Random Shark. Politics are a very divisive topic and have been for a very long time now. Most people seem to be very invested in their stances on major political issues, and it seems to have created a very polarizing system in which discussion between opposing views is becoming more and more strained as a result of people not being able to set aside preconceived perceptions and just discuss issues without slinging insults. And with the advent of YouTube, it's become increasingly easier to get enveloped into a specific side of the political spectrum because you can always find confirmation for your beliefs from somewhere. Say you were a firm believer that cultural appropriation was the devil's work. You could find an argument for that. Or maybe you think that the earth really is flat and it's all one big cover-up. You could even find completely valid arguments for that as well. If the earth were spherical, like the ball, the earth would undoubtedly fall to the space ground and explode due to space gravity. But the point being, it's never been easier to shut yourself into an ideological bubble as it is right now. And as a result of this, it's caused for very polarized viewpoints of politics on the site for some people. To the point where if you lean a little towards the right on most issues, you're probably going to be classed as a Nazi. Or if you lean a little towards the left, you'll be classed as a social justice warrior.
People have been criticizing me for being a conservative alt-right person who fosters poisonous alt-right movements. And the moment I take a stand and say, hey, PewDiePie disappointed me, and I don't think he's a racist, that I get thrown in the trenches by people like Keemstar.
And because this is the case, it causes many YouTubers to try and avoid divulging their political leanings to avoid the headache. Made even less appealing recently as YouTube has implemented monetization guidelines that certainly don't seem to favor these types of more politically charged discussions. However, in spite of all that, many channels out there still decide to talk about their opinions on politics, and personally, I'd term them as political commentators. This includes people like Sargon of Akkad, Paul Joseph Watson, the Young Turks, and most importantly our guest for this video, The Right Opinion, whom you'll hear from later. And even though people like the Young Turks and Paul Joseph Watson have been around on YouTube for quite some time now, I think the big boom for the genre as a whole was an event known as Gamergate. If you're unfamiliar with what Gamergate is, from my understanding without going into too much detail, back in 2013, a woman named Zoe Quinn released a game called Depression Quest, which received very positive reviews from gaming media. However, many said that the game was receiving undue praise, and in 2014, Quinn's former boyfriend released a blog alleging that Quinn had performed sexual favors in order to get these scores.
Published a blog post naming a list of men she had allegedly slept with. No. She admitted to him that she had slept with them.
This of course sparked a controversy over the integrity of gaming media. Gaming media pushed back with articles denigrating gamers as misogynistic and bigoted, which led several people to start noticing a push of feminist ideology into gaming to push certain agendas. And out of this controversy rose a community known as the skeptic community or the anti-SJW community. Now, regardless of your positions on this community, they are some of the biggest and most influential people on YouTube in terms of their political opinion. And their major focus, be they leaning to the left or right on the political spectrum, is to push back against feminism, SJWs, and basically the far left in general, because at the moment they seem to be the ones that are driving Western society. Whether that be through our education, trying to push their ideologies into our movies, video games, what have you, and they seem to have very prominent positions in the mainstream media. Now, for me personally, I've always been a pretty apolitical person. I don't even know the full differences between the Republicans and the Democrats, to be completely honest with you. I don't know most of their policies, and it's not because it's too complicated or something. I just don't care. I've never voted, probably never will. I just do not care. But even I can see that there's a clear push from these people to censor free speech, to undermine Western values, and to push politics into every fucking thing they touch. And to top it all off, their strongest, most well-formulated way to argue their stances on issues are, you know, that's exactly what a racist would say.
All white people are racist, so...
My stance is just common sense. Why would I even bother arguing it?
I was talking about a little earlier when me and Queenie first started talking, where we're so far apart in terms of our starting premises that I don't really see what the point is of that conversation.
Or, you're an obvious racist, sexist, bigoted homophobe. I mean, after all,
you're fucking a white male! So? You're a white man!
And while maybe that is a very fringe element that only makes up a tiny fraction of the left, they are some of the most vocal. And every time we get a tape of some feminist shouting down a man for making a joke, or see a DNC chair candidate tell us that she's going to shut other white people down, or just hear any word cross Anita Sarkeesian's lips in general,
everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
It's pushing people like me, who typically wouldn't even care about these types of things, away. And the longer you let this type of thing go in your party without total condemnation, the more people, like me, you're going to push away. But maybe that's because I'm an apolitical shark. I don't quite understand the integral importance that my race and sexual orientation has to play in every facet of my life. So maybe the right opinion can help me learn how to fight the good fight.
Thank you, theRandomShark. Politics on YouTube is a very unique environment, particularly in comparison to a lot of the other platforms. As theRandomShark rightfully noticed, a certain anti-SJW vibe has risen out of the ashes recently and driven a lot of YouTube politics to the writer points. Two famous examples were YouTube's #ProudToBe and More Than Refugee videos that were both demolished with dislikes and comments, some simply telling them to fuck off, others assuming the identity of famous far-right dictators and writing satirical comments. YouTube does seem to be the platform of choice for many people who are against the sort of mentality promoted on sites like Twitter, which is an intriguingly different can of worms. People who are infamous for their seemingly radical, politically driven content are considerably mainstream on YouTube. Individuals like Mark Dice and Alec Jones sit on top of very healthy subcounts because of that environment. You have three sects of the YouTube political mentality: the individuals, the intra-commentators, and the inter-commentators. The individuals put their content out on behalf of themselves. They don't typically mingle with anyone else, even those who might align with them politically. People like Mark Dice and the Young Turks kind of act as their own flagships. Then you have the intra-commentators, who may have a community but will stick in their own cliques. People like Paul Joseph Watson, Stephen Molyneux on the right, Ry Dennis, Peter Coffin on the left. One really great example is Steve Shibes, who, if you're not blocked by him on Twitter, then you're clearly not doing Twitter right. Then you have the inter-commentators, people who will throw themselves into the fray against other ideological standpoints. Blair White, ContraPoint, Mr. Bunty King, Omni Destiny, Jeff Holiday, Lacey Green are all really good examples of people who enjoy a good old debate. You then have the style of the commentary. This is more on a spectrum. This balances the nature of the compass between emphasis on comedy and emphasis on information. Most videos will have both integrated somehow, but to illustrate my example, you could take someone like Chris Raygun, who places much more accentuation on the humour, or someone like Sargon of Akkad, who focuses much more on the delivery of knowledge throughout his content. Most commentators tackle a mix of serious and comedic issues, and most demonstrate a clear versatility. With someone like Chris Raygun, due to his comic nature, he has his own separate series when he wishes to address more pressing issues without his typical dosage of humour, known as Glasses Off. Generally speaking, the closer you get to the centre of the community, so the more inter-commentators, the more community-focused their videos are, often focusing on discussing other commentators' videos. And the further away you get, the more real-life politically focused those topics are. Lots more response videos and a bit more drama. There is a community around it. It's a bit of a weak circle, but it's there. Overall, it's certainly an interesting mesh of commentators and fan bases, but I'd say it's a net positive. It certainly has its moments, to say the least. And it's nice that a platform has that much freedom, even though sometimes it can go too far. That's me wrapping up here. I've been the right opinion, and I'll pass it back to theRandomShark to close out this video.
Anyways, that's the video, guys. Like it, don't like it, let me know. Special thanks to The Right Opinion for featuring this video with me. Make sure you guys check him out in the description below. He's a much more politically minded YouTuber than I, so if you're looking to stay informed on what's going on in the realm of the political, be sure you check him out. As for political commentary, like I said, I don't care much for politics. However, I do have a vested interest when they try to make active changes in the media I consume or my day-to-day life in general. And it seems that the SJWs won't be satisfied until they've made those changes, so fuck them. Shark pride for life, bruh.